Part 2 of What If Subaru Natsuki Had Stands will be covering the events of Arc 2 in this What If. So let's get back to where we left off last time. Subaru would open his eyes. This time, it was in a new place. He would be in a luxurious looking bed with two restless eyes adjusting to the morning light. Subaru would make his way out of the bed. As Subaru made his way out of the room into the hall, it seemed to him Subaru the halls was repeating. He also noticed that all of his injuries from before were healed up. As Subaru made his way down the hall, he just picked a random door and opened it. In that room, he would find a little girl with drill-like pigtails in her hair. Subaru would claim that he has found the first NPC. He would also claim that her door magic wouldn't be much of an issue for him, as he always knew which doors to open in all the games he played. To the little girl's dismay, her guest has found himself in her sacred library. Soon then, she would ask him what he was doing out of, as those injuries should be properly healed up by now. Subaru would agree with that statement, but he would find it a bit confusing as he thought Amelia was the one. So he tried to confront this little girl about trying to claim Amelia's credit for healing him up. But to, but to Subaru's surprise, this little girl introduced herself as Beatrice, the Great Spirit, and she said she had claimed that Amelia's healing magic was too weak to heal such a serious injury, so she had to step in and heal him up. Once again, Beatrice the spirit asked why Subaru was in her library. Subaru would reply with a morning stroll. Then he walked up to Beatrice, pulling her pigtails, calling her the cutest thing. Beatrice did not like that one bit, so she laid her hand on him. Suddenly, Subaru would feel like his life energy was draining him, instantly falling to the floor. Subaru would question what she had done to him. Beatrice would reply that I simply just zapped all your mana out of your body. Subaru would question if that was like his life force, and Beatrice would confirm, but Subaru already has passed out. When Subaru would open his eyes again, he would be in the same bed, but this time there would be two maid girl twins, one with pink hair and one with blue hair. As Subaru would stare on, the two twins would utter, my, our guests have seemed to awaken. As the pink-headed maid have seen that their guest was staring on at them, she made a comment about how he must have lewd thoughts of them, and Subaru instantly tried to clear himself up, as he did not want to be that type of person. Subaru would remember that in his previous timeline that no one could apparently see his stand ability. So he wanted to test it out with these two maids. He called forth, Cosmic Embrace! The two maids stepped back as they were wondering why was our guest spewing nonsense about a cosmic embrace. To Subaru's surprise, they only reacted to his word. They didn't seem to notice his ability, his stand, floating right around them. Well, that would clear Subaru's suspicion about only him being able to see his own ability. So he would deactivate Cosmic Embrace. Soon Amelia would enter the room, wondering what all the morning fuss was about. Only to her surprise, the two maid girls seemed to think Subaru was delusional, since he just called out a random name at them. Amelia asked if this was true, and Subaru said that it was, but he was only trying to kid around. As the twins maid of left, they would inform Subaru about a breakfast being ready and they could come down whenever he felt. Subaru would happily come down for breakfast as he, he was starving. He hadn't had a meal since the other day when he was just a normal shut in. As Subaru followed the maid twins down the hall to the dining room, Subaru started asking questions about this place and how he got there. They would explain to him that after he was injured, Amelia took him back for proper healing, and Amelia was actually a royal candidate underneath their mansion's owner, Roswell. Finally, they made it to the dining hall. There, Subaru would notice this guy who was dressed up in makeup. He thought him as a clown, so he addressed that Roswell must be a pretty generous guy just to hire a clown. To his horror, he found out that the clown he had just made fun of was actually Roswell, the owner of this mansion. Subaru deeply apologized to him, and Roswell, well, he was okay with it. As they all sat down for breakfast, Roswell would ask Subaru if he needed any other favors since what he did for Amelia was great. After all, if she didn't get back that insignia, she couldn't have participated in the royal selection. So Roswell would propose that he would give Subaru a single favor. Subaru would think long and hard about this, eventually deciding that he wanted to be a butler for him to work at the mansion, as Subaru didn't really have anywhere to go in this new world, and he was out broke. Roswell would accept this, and Subaru would start working for him as a butler. Then Roswell would ask the two sisters to prepare an outfit for Subaru. They asked Subaru to accompany them since they needed his measurements. As they made their way to the dressing hall, the two sisters would address themselves. First, the one in pink hair. She would address herself as Ram, the oldest sister, and then the blue-haired girl would go next. She would address herself as Ram, the younger sister. After they made their way to the clothing storage room, Ram would suggest that Subaru would try on many different sizes to see which ones fit. But to Subaru's surprise, none of the men's sizes fit him, and only the woman's did. So, right then and there, measurements were taken of Subaru, and Subaru, being pretty nervous about it. Then we cut forward to Subaru doing Butler side quest. When we next see Subaru, he would be horribly failing at chopping up some potatoes for a salad, cutting his fingers all over. Rem would coldly keep her distance, while Ram would ridicule Subaru for being so horrible at using a knife. Then she would proceed to flex on Subaru how easy it was. Then we would cut forward to garden work, where Ram would be showing Subaru the basics of trimming down plants into their basic shapes. Ram would look disturbed as something was bothering her. Ram suggested that it might be Subaru's hair since it was pretty unkept. Ram agreed with that statement as she offered to trim Subaru's hair. Subaru didn't realize that his hair was that bad, or so he thought it was decent. He would agree to take up Ram's offer of trimming up his hair, but that would have to be later of today. As finally Subaru's lunch break would roll around, spending all of his time outside the mansion with Amelia. Amelia would have her spirit contract already out and present, as Subaru would mess around with this spirit puck. Eventually, their shenanigans made Amelia giggle, fueling Subaru to take it forward. Eventually, Subaru would ask Puck about the mana and how he could learn magic. Puck would reply with, "Well, the magic of this world, it's like a gate. Just like how you breathe in oxygen, your gate will take in the mana from the atmosphere. We can do a little test to see what type of magic there are. There are four types of magic: fire magic, water magic, wind magic, and earth magic. So I'll just rest my tail and pawn your forehead to see what type you have." Subaru would be excited, wondering if he could have blazing fire or cooling water, having the strong winds or the solid, reliable earth. But as Puck rests his tail on Subaru, he would realize that Subaru had the Yang type of magic, also known as dark. Subaru would be surprised, as he only thought there were four types. Puck would later explain that there are actually two more types: Yin and Yang magic. Subaru would ask Puck what his Yang magic could do. Puck would explain that it was basically just debuffs, and you could hinder an opponent's ability to fight. Puck would demonstrate Yang magic. Puck would cast out Shamak. Suddenly, Subaru would lose all his senses. He was completely blind. He couldn't feel, hear, or do anything. He was truly lost. By the time the spell ended, he's managed to wander halfway across the garden. Subaru would ask Puck if he could teach him how to do that. Puck would accept Subaru's request, telling Amelia to stay back as a Subaru was new to magic and he wasn't sure what could possibly happen if he tried a spell for the first time. As Subaru saw Amelia walk further and further away, he thought to himself, surely his first time using magic couldn't be that horrible, right? Puck would explain to him what it took to use magic. He told Subaru to visualize his gate, imagining a burst of mana exiting as a spell. As Subaru visualized this, after Subaru visualized it, a huge smoke cloud would appear, but it was black in color. Subaru was completely exhausted after he used up all his mana on that one shamak. Puck didn't expect Subaru to fail so horribly. Subaru was completely exhausted, so he lay down for the remaining of his lunch break. But soon enough, Subaru had to get back to work, still exhausted, but he needed to push himself further. He couldn't be useless as the newest recruit. Later, Subaru and Ram would go down to the village to pick up groceries. After the shopping was done, the children of the village managed to lure Subaru away, as the children of the village had a strong desire to mess around with Subaru, as they viewed him as one of them, even though Subaru was much older. After Rem found Subaru, she demanded that they needed to return back to the mansion, but Subaru reluctant, as he wanted to pet the small dog that one of the kids were showing him. After petting the little dog, the dog proceeded to bite Subaru. Subaru yelped, as he did not expect such a small, adorable creature to be so aggressive for no reason. And so Subaru and Rem went back. As we see Subaru and Rem heading back to the mansion, we cut over to Roswell and Ram. Ram was suggesting that Subaru might be a spy trying to infiltrate to see what's happening in the royal selection in the Amelia camp. But Roswell, he knew otherwise. But we would find that out later. We cut back to Subaru chilling out with Amelia. after he just finished his studies of the local languages. It was pretty hard for him, but he was done with it now. He could just finally have a chat with Amelia. After a nervous build-up, Subaru managed to build up the courage to ask out Amelia on a date. But Amelia wasn't familiar with the concept. But after a while of trying to explain it, Amelia would agree. Subaru would head off to bed, excited as ever, wondering what the new world awaits him for tomorrow. As Subaru would drift off to sleep, he would think about his date with Amelia. As it has been a hard week in the mansion, as Subaru would drift hardly, he would grow tired. The next time when Subaru opened his eyes, he realized he was back at the maids. He was confused of why they were still in his room, asking them so directly. The maid sisters repeated it himself, "Sister, sister, our guest seems to be a bit delusional, as we have no idea what this he is yapping about." Subaru had noticed the cuts on his hand that he got throughout the week. They were all gone. He had died. He deeply regretted all of the past actions that would forever be erased. So he ran back to the sacred library. There he would try to piece together how he died in his sleep, but to no avail. Eventually, he came back for the same breakfast again, to the same offer of Walter offering him a favor, and again Subaru would repeat that he wanted to work there as a butler. He thought as long as he did the same things, he would get back to the same outcome. But to Subaru, but to Subaru's surprise, in this timeline, the maid sisters introduced themselves right there and then at breakfast. As Ram would introduce herself, she would claim that she wasn't really good at much across the entire board, but she did have a strong suit of being in the kitchen. And then Rem would say that she was strong at everything around the mansion, managing to do all of it. Subaru would be surprised as he thought one of them would be exceeding in the other's downfall, but he would soon be corrected by Roswell. After Subaru and Rem and Ram went to the clothing area to see if anything would fit Subaru, but Subaru already knew nothing was going to fit. He would need something properly tailored to his size. So he would ask Rem to get it over with, as he didn't want to be flustered. But Rem told Subaru that that could wait, as he needed to do other things. Subaru would agree, as he deeply wanted to take a bath, as completely ignored that in his previous loop. As Subaru was cleaning himself in the bath, Roswell would soon join him. Subaru wouldn't dare question this fact, as Roswell was the mansion's owner. But Roswell would flaunt that Subaru was his precious subordinate. Subaru would find that disturbing and quickly leave, but unlike in canon, he would grab a towel on the way out. Luckily enough, when he exited the bathing room, he would find Ram sitting there with towels. He would be grateful that he decided to grab one, or else he would be in an embarrassing position. Ram would make an arrogant remark about if Subaru was just going to stand there all day, if he was waiting to do something to the poor, innocent soul that she had. Subaru would find that outrageous, as he would quickly abandon that place. Meant as we cut forward to his lunch break again. This time, he wanted to train up his innate stand ability in magic too, as he didn't want to remain a weakling forever. He soon discovered that his stand ability was much stronger than he thought, as it could easily destroy a tree. And with further assistance from Puck, he would soon be able to not explode his magic all over the place, keeping it condensed to one person. Where in that field, that single person would have their senses negated, just like Subaru felt underneath Puck's spell. As the lunch break ended once again, Subaru and Rem needed to do shopping, so they went back down to the village. This time, kept his playing time with the village children under wrap, as not to anger Rem. Like in before, like before, the same dog would bite Subaru, as he thought that was just unfortunate. Such a cute creature didn't like him, but they needed to make their way back to the mansion. Once back at the mansion, Subaru would repeat his date offer to Amelia, and once again Amelia would accept. But as Subaru went back to his room, he needed to stay up all night to see what killed him in his past life. As the clock approached midnight, Subaru would suddenly feel weak as his life force was beginning to drain. He didn't know why, but he sought out help from the great spirit Beatrice. So out he went, exploring the halls. And then suddenly his leg would be completely blown off. Subaru felt this. He did not know who was attacking him, so he decided to use Shamak. Without without a moment's waste, he would withdraw his stand, ordering it to protect him. As Subaru crawled across the floor, it was exhausting enough keeping the defenses up. But the Shamak he threw earlier, it wasn't a great distraction, as Subaru was exhausted from the day. He would see that the one who was killing him, it was Rem. Rem killed him for some reason. Subaru would reopen his eyes back at the maids. He would feel great fear looking at Rem. He did not know why she would kill him in his past life, but he needed to find out. Subaru would go back to the Great Library. He wanted to ask the Great Spirit questions about the type of magic that she used to drain his mana. As Subaru remembered, he felt the same weakness that in his previous life. As Subaru explained this to the Great Spirit about how he suspected a spell that could draw your mana out, the Great Spirit, Beatrice, told him that such a spell was incapable, but there were things similar, like curses. Subaru would deduct that he was killed by a curse, but how? He would ask how and who could control these curses. The Beatrice would reply with, well, it would take a quite experienced person. She would explain that shamans, the people who cast curse, they needed to make physical contact to activate the curse later on. And she could indeed check for curses, telling Subaru wherever the shaman touched him would be where the curse would show. Beatrice would also mention the strong miasma Subaru carries. Subaru would question miasma. Beatrice would explain to him that miasma was corrupted mana leaking from the Witch of Envy and other witch factors. But Subaru didn't know what a witch factor was. So Beatrice would explain to him that it would be powers granted to people who are in a link with them. And the stronger you are with a witch factor, the more miasma you have. But Subaru would question, was his return by death ability a witch factor? So right then and there, he tried telling Beatrice about his return by death. He would confess that he has actually died multiple times, but Before the words could ever leave his mouth, he would feel an utter heart crunching pain as an invisible hand would crush his heart. Immense pain would overtake Subaru as he falls to the ground. Beatrice didn't seem to care as Subaru left with this newfound information. Once again at the breakfast, Subaru would request to be a butler, but this time he needed to get closer to the sisters. He needed to earn their trust. As he suspected, his miasma was to blame for why they didn't have much trust for him. So as he repeated the same chores, he was noticeably better at them, which only drew him further suspicion. But when it came to the grocery shopping, this time Subaru refused, as he believed the shaman was in the village, believing it would have to be one of the villagers he was chatting with, or maybe even one of the kids. But he would doubt that, as he thought that he needed more experience. So there he would lay. He still feared that Ram might kill him again, so he requested the aid of Beatrice. After Subaru convinced Beatrice, who was very reluctant, Subaru would wake up the next morning, only to his horror to find out Rem had died in her sleep. Subaru knew. It must have been a curse, as Subaru didn't want to accept the fact that Rem was dead. He would claim that he was drawn closer to him throughout all of his previous lives, so Subaru would make the decision to rescue Rem whatever it takes. Ram, hearing this, would increase her anger already. She would already be furious. She would question Subaru what he knew about Rem's death. Subaru did not have a reply, but he said to himself he was gonna save Rem. So he ran further than he ever ran before. He really thought about this long and hard. He didn't know if he was gonna come back another time. He questioned if his return by death had a limit, but he suspected that he just might be able to do it again, out in the forest all by himself. Subaru would be on the edge of hesitation. Was he gonna reactivate his ability, returning to the moment where Rem was alive? Time ran out as he heard Ram screaming throughout the forest. Ram was determined to kill Subaru, but before Ram could get to him, Beatrice would appear, as she was made a contract with Subaru that no matter what, she would keep him safe till morning draws. Or at least that was Subaru thought, but Beatrice did not have a time limit that Subaru gave him. So, as much as Ram tried to kill Subaru, Beatrice was protecting him. Subaru would claim he was going to save Rem. Then, withdrawing his own stand ability, he would snap his neck right in front of them. Suddenly, he would reopen his eyes, back at the same bedroom, with the same twin sisters. He would be so grateful, even holding both of their hands. But the twin sisters had a different thought, as their newly awakened guest was grasping at their hands, which they find disgusting. Ram would instantly call him a pervert. Subaru would suddenly realize if the shaman was in the village with the kids could probably be in danger. But that was later. He needed to act as soon as possible. But at the same time, he needed to do it without drawing out suspicion. So, as the events continued the same as before, he still became a butler for Roswell. He would wait all the way until they went grocery shopping, meeting the same dog again, getting bitten again, making sure every single person touched him, as he needed to know who was the shaman. When he returned back to the mansion, he would instantly question Beatrice about if he was cursed. To Beatrice's surprise, he was indeed cursed. When Beatrice undid the curse, Subaru realized it was the dog. The dog was the shaman who bit him. Taking this moment, he was ready. He was going to assemble everybody. He needed to make sure the village kids were safe. As he made his way down the stairs, the twin sisters would appear, questioning about his whereabouts. And Subaru would ask for Roswell's help, as he needed somebody to help him. But to his dismay, the twin sisters, Rem and Rom, they have informed him that Roswell went out on an important business trip. Subaru would explain that the villagers might be in danger since it was a curse. They severely doubted it, but just to be safe, they went down and checked out. And Subaru was right. They were, the villagers were in danger. The kids, they were missing. Subaru would suggest to the twin sisters that he needed to get into the forest to find them, as they could be there. Rem didn't want Subaru to risk it all for nothing, but Subaru told him he knew every single one of the kids. He knew what their dreams and desires were, so he was going to go out there and save them. Eventually, Subaru and Rem went into the forest. Subaru told Ram to keep guard back in the village in case any more shamans came out of the forest. As Subaru and Rem made their way into the forest, they would quickly notice there were demi-beasts in here. They surrounded them overwhelmingly. Subaru would activate his stand, Cosmic Embrace, forming a shield around him as he soon attacked the horde of mob beasts. Rem, who was an Oni, activated her demon horn, gaining immense physical buffs to her strength, speed, and everything. They slaughtered many, but it was too overwhelming. Eventually, Subaru defenses started to crack. A whole swarm of these demi-beasts bit on Subaru, implanting multiple layers of curses. Rem, who was starting to lose her mind to her Oni powers, instantly was infuriated with this. She started slaughtering as many as she could. She started running to the next horde of them. Subaru would start would start to follow after, but Rem was too fast. He decided to focus on finding the kids. Eventually, he found the kids. All of them were there, but as he questioned a little girl named Petra, she told him one of them was actually missing. Subaru knew this. Risk was too great. So, with all his power, he carried the kids back, but he had to make multiple trips. As soon as he got back into the forest by himself, he needed to find the one girl who was missing. He looked everywhere. He saw the girl out in the open. He didn't know if it was a trap, but putting that aside, he rushed in anyway, managing to grab the girl. But to his surprise, no demi-beast popped up. Subaru convinced himself this wasn't a trap. Just to be wary, he activated his stand, creating a little barrier between him and the outside. Subaru would strangely enough not encounter any mobbies on the way back. Therefore, the last girl was saved, the last villagers. But soon Subaru collapsed from exhaustion. He would wake up the next morning, realizing that Rem was still out there in the forest, killing the mobbies. Subaru wanted to go out into the forest. But first, he needed food. Then Ram appeared with a steaming hot potato that she aggressively shoved down Subaru's mouth. Subaru instantly panicked since it was burning his mouth from the inside. But Subaru would eventually eat the entire thing. But before he could make his way to the forest, Beatrice would appear. She would inform Subaru that the many layers of curses that was implanted on him from the other day increased the time that they would shut off, but he would most certainly die, as Beatrice could not untangle all of them at once. It was too complex. But Subaru didn't care about that, as he knew he could always return by death. Instead, he asked about the kids. Beatrice confirmed that all of the kids were safe and sound. So Subaru decided to get Ram, and together they went out to the forest to look for Ram. Subaru would notice that the mobbies were specifically targeting him from the other day. So he realized the miasma stuff. It must be correlated somehow. So, in a last ditch effort, he told Ram that he could return by death. Again, his heart was crushed. As the immense pain took over, suddenly a big swarm of mobbies would appear. Subaru, knowing this, would activate his stand, getting it to kill many at a time. But to Ram was curious. How was Subaru killing all these things? It seemed he was doing it with telekinesis, but to her knowledge, Subaru only knew a low tier magic spell, and he was just no different from a normal human. But now wasn't the time to question it, as they saw Rem. Rem was still in her berserker state, chasing the last swarm of mobbies, killing all of them. But Rem was still crazed. She was still bloodthirsty. She needed more. Then, suddenly, the final dog, the final demi-dog would appear. This one was the small puppy from earlier, but it called a great swarm of more, many more demi-beasts. The small dog grew in stature. Eventually, it was towering over the the regular demi-beast. Subaru decided he was going to take on the final one, the largest one. He told Ram to try to get. Oh my gosh, what was that? He told Ram to support Rem, as Rem was bloodthirsty enough to continue her killing spree. Subaru would once more activate his stand, ordering it to barrage the living she out of the final boss. But the demi-dog was large in stature. It could easily tank multiple hits from Subaru's cosmic embrace. That's when Subaru noticed a weak spot right in their neck. So Subaru would activate Shamag again, withdrawing his stand power, this time making an energy construct of a sword. He would be able to stab through the neck of this demi-dog. When the demi-dog was blinded, he would also paralyze it by freezing all of the kinetic energy within its body. It was completely frozen. Subaru would stab at its neck over and over again. Eventually, it would bleed out. Subaru was victorious. He had managed to defeat the final demi-dog, the one above them all. He turned back to see the smaller demi-dogs were small in population. Rem slaughtered nearly all of them. But Ram looked worried, as they needed to get Rem back to her sane mind. Ram discussed a plan with Subaru. They needed to touch her once on the forehead, as the immense physical power was coming from her demon horn. So Subaru asked if it was okay if he came up with a plan that would 100% work. Ram would agreed with it, finding it a bit weird, but Subaru would call forth his stand again. With his immense physical power, he would throw Ram very far away. He would throw Ram from very far away, landing right next to Rem. Ram would manage to touch Ram on the forehead, deactivating her demon mode. But there was still a swarm of demi-beasts left. That was no problem for Subaru, as his stand could easily defeat them. Subaru would try out something new with his stand. He would crystallize energy into an arrow, a very durable and hard arrow. He would make thousands of them and rain them down on the demi-dogs. They didn't do much damage, but it still hurt them. They were still defenseless. So, with the immense capability of his stand, he managed to beat them up one by one. As they would try to gain up on Subaru, one would rush from the front and three would run from the back. Subaru would instantly create an energy construct of a sword, chopping off the head of the first dog and using its body to knock back the other three. Then he would form much thicker arrows this time, aiming them for the vital spots. These arrows would be much more successful than the last. 30 minutes later, Subaru has managed to defeat all the demi-dogs, but he still pondered, was he gonna die? He still had all those curses on him. So as the group made it back to the village, Subaru worried, as he didn't want all of his progress to get reset at this point. He would confront Beatrice about it, but luckily enough, the curse couldn't be activated when the demi-dogs were already dead. So Subaru got to live another tale. They would all head back towards the mansion where Amelia was waiting. Roswell would soon return from his mission. He would realize that Subaru was as capable as he imagined. He managed to defend the village from all the demi-dogs. Rem would feel deeply embarrassed about what happened the other night, how she kept on killing them in a mindless rampage. She would confront Subaru about it, telling her that she was completely worthless compared to her sister, who would have handled the situation much more carefully if she would have had her horn. But Subaru did not care. To him, the version of Ram was the only version he knew, the only one. So he told Ren that she didn't have to be an insignificant compared to her sister. He told him that he was going to be demonically inspired. He told her about all of his plans to talk about the future. He said they were the same from his world. If you talk to a demon about next year, you'd surely know what's to come, or something like that, maybe? I don't remember. I don't have perfect memory, guys. After that, Rem would deeply admire Subaru, deeming him as her hero. Well, I guess that's the end of the video. If you managed to make it this far, thanks very much. You might consider supporting me, hit a like, maybe the subscribe button if I'm lucky, please. And please tell me if you want to see a part 3 to this series. It's been really fun coming up with this script. So, bye.